Watching News at Prime, let's bring you now this conversation. Three opposition parties, BOSA, Rise Mzansi and the GOOD party, they've merged to form a new political movement called Unite for Change. Now, the announcement was made in Johannesburg earlier today. Both GOOD and Rise Mzansi, they're part of the current arrangement, which is the Government of National Unity, which was formed last year after the elections. This was at a time when no one political party won an outright majority. Joining me now to discuss this new movement is Mmusi Maimane, Patricia de Lille and Songezo Zibi. To all my guests, good evening to you and thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, and it's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Well, let me start with you, Mr. Maimane, since you respond so nicely. A lot of people wanted you and Mr. Zibi sitting across there to run together ahead of the 2024 elections. You chose not to do that. What took you so long?
Firstly, I think we have to now work out what the moment requires us today. It's far easier to form pre-coalition prior to a local government election, fundamentally because you've still got a constituency-based model in wards. And secondly, we've had to say to ourselves, given post-GNU, post what's happened in our country, no one can deny that this moment does not require a straightforward process. We've got a commission on the go, we've got unemployment rising, we've got our cities collapsing. So we've been working together with a number of political formations and saying to ourselves, how can we bring on more to be able to elect the best candidates to stand at local government? So I think, as someone says, if the best time is to plant a tree was yesterday, the next best time is to do it now. So this is a moment right now to do it. And I would argue the fact that along with Minister Patricia de Lille, along with civil society organizations and many others, I really believe 2026 local government election is going to be significant. And more crucially, we're telling people up front what the sort of candidates and work that's going to happen.
Minister de Lille, allow me to jump you and go to Mr. Zibi. I'm going to come to you in a moment. Mr. Zibi, so you're both talking unity now, but what makes this any more than another short-lived arrangement?
No, it won't be a short-lived arrangement. Firstly, this conversation has been going on for some time, not just between the three of us, but with other political formations, and that conversation continues. And one of the reasons we've decided to not even talk about the question of leadership is that we can't complete that without the other political formations that we are in discussions with, because we want to build a much bigger coalition than what the three political parties that are seated here represent. It will be political parties that participated in the elections in 2024, that are represented in parliament. It will also be other political formations at local and regional level that we speak to. So the moment right now is ripe, I think, because if we don't start at local government, which is the cutting edge of the problems that South Africans feel, whether it is in Johannesburg, the city of Cape Town, or Buffalo City, or anywhere else across the country, we have an opportunity to go ward by ward, voting district by voting district, which is what the local government election gives you as an opportunity and a task. That would set us up well for continuing to work together under this banner in 2029 and going forward.
Just briefly before I go to the minister, you are welcoming or you're inviting other political formations. That includes ordinary citizens, by the way.
Yes.
That's the message. But are you not going to be picky given what we are going through as a country? I'm talking about those who form part of the problem you seek to fix.
No, we are going to be picky. I mean, first of all, we've laid out some values and principles that are going to inform who gets to work with us and who doesn't get to work with us. Some of those you might call ideological, but it is important. There are certain things that are really important. Ethical leadership is one. Secondly, a track record. That is not littered with the kind of problems that we see in many people that hold political office today is another. But also non-racialism, the politics of care, rather than the politics of cruelty against other South Africans and so on, it's really important that we try and unify South Africans instead of othering certain people and problematizing them as if when we marginalize those people, then the rest of our problems are going to get away.
Yeah.
So if political parties or formations do not believe in national unity as a concept, then this is not a platform for them.
Minister Delil, let's bring you into the conversation. Yes, you're not here in your capacity as minister. But let me ask you this. You are no stranger at attempts at political realignment. What makes this partnership any fundamentally different to what we've seen in the past?
Well, there are two reasons. And the first one is that there's a fragmentation of the opposition voters. You will find that the opposition voters in this country just rotate. You know, like in 2024, we lost votes to Rise or to BOSA and vice versa. And to deal with the fragmentation, we said, let us unite to build this alternative in our country. Also to fill the space of politics in the center. There's a vacuum there. And not because it's local government elections, not just to talk ideology. The problems of our people knows no political affiliation. If you don't have water, electricity or land, it doesn't ask you which political party you belong to. And we all know that local government is in crisis. And we have come together and said, even if we do have differences, let's rise above that and put our country first. And that's where we are today. Leaving, of course, the door open for other like-minded parties and civil society and young people. We want young people to come in. Young people must lead. And yes, I can bring my experience to bear, but both a gentleman here, they also have their own experience. Yeah. And so we can learn from each other.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who approached who? Because you are a seasoned politician, yeah, and you are bringing together two new political parties. He may want for us to identify him as seasoned, but not quite.
Yeah.
So who approached who, and why the choice of the three of you coming together?
Between Rise Mzansi and GOOD, we started talking even before the 2024 elections. Until I said, let us allow Rise to test the ground and let them test, you know, what support they will get in their own name. But even after the elections, we continued to work together to an extent that when the GOOD Party had a vacancy in our metropolitan within the city of Cape Town, we got the premier candidate of Rise to fill that vacancy. So we've got a long history of working together with the Rise.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we continued to talk, and we said, let us also talk to BOSA. And I had a conversation with Mmusi offline, and Mmusi called back. And Mmusi warmed up to the idea because all three of us can see the value of, you know, us coming together and saying to, you know, put our country first. So I won't claim credit for bringing either Songezo or Mmusi. I think they are political leaders in their own right. Mm-hmm. We discussed the idea, they add value, and that brought us where we are today. Mmusi
Maimane, if this new movement struggles or loses momentum, is that not going to weaken what you and Rise Mzansi are seeking to do here, and that is to infuse a youthful politics in the country, but also professionals coming into the political space?
You know, Koli, I want to be clear that we're working on the premise of success. And here's why I think there's the first initial success. If you go to ward, I'm not sure which ward you live in Joburg, but I'll take mine, Ward 48 in Dobsonville. You've got Rise, you've got BOSA, you've got GOOD, you've got whoever else coming in. You can appreciate that if there were only 50 voters and each of us got 10 votes and another party came and got 12, surely they will win the ward. But even if the three of us got together, we would have won that ward. So I think there's the first practical question that we must put on the table, which is to say, in a ward level, it is not helpful. It will actually be counterproductive to say, let us compete in the same spaces, given the fact that when we've done the electoral mapping, you can also see the overlap between some of Rise and BOSA voters and GOOD voters. The second dynamic is this, is that South Africa has got a few problems, but too many parties. So what you also don't want is that in a particular ward, how many candidates exactly exist there who can be competent, ethical, be able to do? Is it not better off giving them the best platform possible and then saying to them, let's select those? So to your point, I think it can only enhance rather than weaken. And I also do think that over a long period of time, if this was a national election, there would be a different discussion. This is a local election with very important localized issues. And therefore, I think that what we are wanting is not just 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, but let's make it 5, 6, let's add more so that we can build on that momentum.
Mr. Zibi, I'm going to come to you now and bring the question that seemed to annoy you during that announcement, and that is over the leadership dynamics.
Yes.
The question was, who's going to lead this new movement? That seemed to annoy you a little bit, but I'll tell you why I'm asking it again. It is because new formations, like what you're seeking to do here today, they collapse under the weight of leadership struggles, egos, people wanting to secure turf. How will Unite avoid these?
Well, I think, firstly, the fact that we have not placed that question front and center of what we're doing is an indication that we want to do things differently this time. What is important is to find the best councillor and mayoral candidates out there so that they can represent the communities from which they come and they can bring new capabilities into local government. That's important. The reason some of these political formations have collapsed on the question of leadership is that at the heart of it has always been the question of leadership and the patronage that it brings, rather than a solid political program that is supported by South Africans in the communities in which you seek to represent. So it's important that you start with that. You start with constitutional structures. You start with the nature of the politics that you are going to represent. What kind of politics do you practice? What kind of people do you want in this political organization? That gives you the core from which you draw on your leadership cadre. If you start with the question of leadership, you are going into it backwards. And believe me, the outcome will be disastrous, as we have seen before.
Okay, all right. I'm going to ask you, Patricia de Lille, what happens in the instance where there is disagreement? How is this going to be solved in Unite for Change? But I'll ask you to reserve that comment for now. If you're just joining us, good evening to you. You find us in the middle of a conversation with three political parties that are coming together to form what they are calling is a movement. It's called Unite for Change. We'll challenge even that notion of a movement, and so let's get back into it. Patricia de Lille, let me come to you. So we're still on the question of leadership dynamics. When there is disagreement, how does Unite for Change resolve these? And if there is a clear conflict where one of you here is pulling in a completely different direction, is there a conflict resolution mechanism to solve that problem?
First of all, we have designed an organization that will have structures. So you will have your administration that underpins your organization. with an operational plan. We will have a national management committee, currently consisting of 6 people. And then you have got your National Leadership Council. So in the event there's a dispute, if it's a dispute in the administration of the party, it will then be referred to the National Management Committee, to the Leadership Council. But we believe in consensus building and also in compromises. And we have not tested our dispute resolution machinery that we've put in place because we didn't have a dispute. But we are ready to deal with it if there are any disputes going into the future, which we hope, of course, will not happen.
Well, let me stick with you for just one moment. As things stand, going into the local government elections next year,
yes,
the 3 of you remain with your political identities. But
yes,
will there come a time when that changes, where you now come into one unit and BOSA, GOOD, Mzansi is absorbed into one entity? Just
absorb into one entity.
Yes.
I think the way we also look at this is like a journey. So we've started now this journey to work and unite around local government elections. Once our supporters, GOOD, Rise and BOSA supporters are in this unite, then it's like a scrambled egg. You can't unscramble it then and say, in 2029, now Songezo is going to stand again at Rise. We see it as a long-term measure to deal with a systemic problem in politics. And that is that as much as you respect the choice of any person in this country to start a political party, and it's part of our democracy, but especially on the opposition side, we need to bring voters together instead of circulating amongst the same political parties all the time.
Yeah.
And we want to grow that block of opposition voters.
Will there be a conference, a leadership election conference, Mmusi Maimane, is what I'm trying to get at?
I hear you. I hear your question, but I think let's allow that decision to be taken post-2026. And I'll tell you why that is. It's because, as I said to you, this is an incomplete picture. You are just seeing the first floor of a building that will have many layers.
Yeah.
There are other citizens who need to be incorporated. There are other people who want to be a part, but are not wanting to stand for public office.
Yeah.
What happens to a faith-based organization that says, I see myself mobilizing and working with you, but I never want to be the premier, the president, or whatever? So let's allow that conversation to take place. There are still policy conversations that are still going to happen, and that will unfold in due course. I think that's why I say the exercise of doing it at local government level is absolutely vital because A, local government is heavily regulated, B, local government has got a constituency-based model, which allows ward-based, and 3, citizens themselves can make the predetermination. So let's lead with what the people want. Let's not solve for the politics. Let's solve for the people. Let's focus on that.
I think that's clear. Let's talk accountability.
Yeah.
Leadership accountability, if we can. And I want to begin that with you. You have built your messaging around ethical leadership, ending cadre deployment. Even when you were part of the DA, it was exactly that message. What is going to be different this time? South Africans have heard this promise before.
Yeah.
It's cadre deployment is still a problem. Look at what local government is like right now.
The most important thing you can do to solve issues of corruption and issues of leadership that hides behind just brands is to make everything transparent. And so the starting point is to go out into communities and get people to bring their own leaders. We've got to spend some time through a nomination process that has to be transparent. And the first step that indicates the level of transparency we're putting forward is not doing coalitions post facto. Now, let me give you a practical example. You'll remember in the last elections, people were screaming, I'll never work with this one, I'll never do this. Suddenly the elections take place, they get together, then they're working with each other. You don't even know what they've agreed on, who's getting paid for what.
Speak names, Mmusi Maimane. Don't shy away.
I think citizens are quite clear about some of the mess they're experiencing in cities like Joburg, Ekurhuleni, etc. The parties involved in that have shown that. So what we're saying is, let's demonstrate it upfront. Let me tell you what's going to happen upfront. Let's also invite people in their communities to be able to nominate their leaders so that you're clear, you know it. We will soon embark on a process of mayoral candidates in a fairly transparent manner for people to be able to interrogate those mayoral candidates. And what I'm trying to allude to there is that before you hold people accountable post facto, let's make sure we elect the most ethical, competent people up front. Because if you fail at electing the most ethical up front and you depend exclusively on this idea of political patronage, you must be branch, you are this, you are that, you end up with being able to put together a team of people who are already compromised, who are reliant on the leader, and the consequences then become that of state capture. Okay. Here the exercise is to say, empower the people to make the decision.
Mr. Zibi, some people sitting at home listening to you right now are saying, what stops Unite for Change from becoming another party that talks ethics but rewards loyalty? My question to you simply is this. He's talking councillors. So give us concrete measures you will implement to keep your councillors clean.
So first of all, it is in the choice of people that eventually make into council. There is a thing in politics where people say, I've got numbers. And they say, I've got numbers, which means those people are members of those people coming into the organization. I think there are several building blocks that are important. The transparency of the process of selecting councillors is important, because if you miss that step, it becomes very difficult to hold people accountable thereafter. So that is the first thing. The second thing is actual performance criteria for councillors. That is clear and is linked to the outcomes that citizens are looking for. If there's no water in an area and people can't get hold of their council, we must not wait until the end of the term to remove that councillor. That councillor must go. We'd rather have a by-election instead of leaving that person on for 5 years, because it puts a distance between the political organization and the people. The last thing that I want to say, and one of the reasons it is important, you asked about leadership earlier on, the nature of the politics you practice, the organizational culture that you build, and the expectations that people have within the organization is the most important guardrail that you can have in any organization, whether it is business or sport, because it enables or it builds a culture where it's not just the leadership, it is the contemporaries or the members themselves who hold each other accountable without necessarily having to go through formal structures. If somebody's straying, somebody says, I am sorry, my leader, this is not what we're supposed to do, this is not what we expect of you, you need to behave differently. Cultures like that are built slowly. They don't happen on their own. It's an effort, which is why it's important that we spend time building constitutional structures and being deliberate about the kind of political culture we want within the organization.
Just stick with you for one moment. You have said today that South Africans have lost faith in politicians.
Yes.
And that's a fair point. But why should they trust you? You are teaming up with a seasoned politician who has seen no problem teaming up with the very people back in 1999 when she raised alarm about the arms deal to still be in the leadership with them in government. I'll come to you, Auntie Pat, with that question, but please answer that question.
So my point earlier and in this moment is that South Africans need to bank on themselves slowly. Part of the reason South Africans have lost faith in politics and politicians is because too many of us believe there is a special brand of people called politicians who have a divine right to represent everybody else. and therefore they place themselves on the sidelines. I would love nothing more than the majority of people who become part of Unite for Change to be people who have not previously been in politics, so that they can make sure that from here on forward, the kind of things they have not liked seeing in politics do not happen again. But you can't want the change but not want to drive the change.
Yeah.
That message is very important to every South African who's watching this interview. You want the change. Democracy is like a stock fair. You don't put money in, you get nothing out. You sit at home, politicians do whatever they like. You take part in the activism, you influence political culture and political decision-making.
Yeah.
This is the opportunity for South Africans to do just that.
Let's come to you, Patricia de Lille. You said today that voters are fed up with corruption. They're fed up with misgovernance. However, some would say that is a bit rich coming from you because as we speak today, you serve in government alongside the very people you have previously accused of corruption. And so, why should anyone take your outrage seriously?
Well, let me put it this way. When you are in government, government is heavily prescribed how you do things and how you don't do things. Yes, there are some people in government that have perfected corruption. And the problem in our country is that we've got a culture now where only after the fact, when we realize 2.2 billion is gone, Babita has been killed, whistleblowers has been maimed, then we want to act by putting up a commission. What we are saying, what government should be doing, everybody talks about the fourth industrial revolution. Just sounds nice, like a cliche. We need to put systems in place in government that can detect and prevent corruption. And then sometimes they blame the politicians. Yes, the buck stops with you as the executive authority. But people in the administration who are responsible, and sometimes politicians is part of that. But I'm not going to sit here and judge other people, everyone for himself and God for all of us. If you want to be corrupt, the law must deal with you. We've got an independent judiciary. I am here and I can serve my country in any capacity. Now, why was I working with the ANC in the sixth administration? It's again because of a history. Started with late Tata Mandela. Since 1994, he had always accommodated a political leader from an opposition party. The late Chief Buthelezi, AZAPU president, the Freedom Front Plus had a deputy minister, the DA opted for 5 ambassadors. So it's not that I joined a corrupt government. I joined because I was asked to come and serve.
Quick one.
Yes.
Before I move on to Mr. Maimane, and we need to wrap. At what point does staying silent become complicity?
Silent? If I stayed silent?
Has there been a point right now?
Never.
Has there been any point right now
Never.
sitting in cabinet where you've spoken out very vocally inside cabinet about wrongdoing?
Let me give you an example, Sarada. I was 2 weeks appointed as the Minister of Tourism. I stopped the Tottenham Hotspurs deal, saved South Africa 1.2 billion rand. So I've never been quiet. I don't want to smell corruption anywhere. Right now, I'm in another battle because of allegations of corruption. Because it's your duty, your constitutional duty as an executive authority to act on these things. But I've never been silent, and I will never be silent. I mean, I was a whistleblower myself. I know what a whistleblower is going through when you It's lonely. I mean, I look at General Mkhonasi and I look at him and I say to myself, you know what? It's very lonely once you are so brave to take that step to be a whistleblower. So quiet, I've never been.
All right. 2 quick comments from both of you, gentlemen. If Unite for Change fails, what will that tell South Africans about the effort to bring good people who are ethical into politics in this country? Very quickly.
I think first you'd need to define what failure looks like. But for me, like I said to you earlier, I'm planning for success. But the more fundamental issue is that it is upon us, all of us as a society. Because let me tell, maybe just to sum up this point, we cannot remain with status quo. Status quo means you've got no water, you have had load shedding, you've got economic growth that is subpar. So that's status quo. If you want to define failure, that is failure. Therefore, anything you want to do beyond that point can only take us forward. And the national question that all of us must be obsessed with is who becomes the government post this current lot? Because that is the question. And that is the question we must solve for. So ultimately, success requires all of us to build that alternative and a new government, because my children and your children need to live in this country. And I'm not comfortable to say what the current lot have brought us to is going to take us to where we need to get to.
Mr. Zibi, very quickly from you. If this fails, what will that tell us about attempts at installing ethical leadership?
Failure is not an option, first of all. But I also want to say to South Africans who are watching, what will make the project for change fail is if people do not bet on themselves. If they put themselves in the position of bystanders, of commentators on social media, instead of the activism we require so that we can get the kind of political leadership. For me, if South Africans themselves cannot take up this opportunity and we fail to do that, I must tell you clearly, South Africa is gone. I said earlier today when we were speaking, the quality of political leadership matters. We are here because the quality of political leadership in South Africa is poor. And the quality leadership sits outside political parties. South Africans need to step up and step forward and lead.
To all of my guests, thank you very much for making time here today. I really appreciate it. And best of luck for this effort. All right, and that's it from me this evening.